I'm just gonna.
Hallelujah. Ha. That's a good seat, better than a lot, man. This sweats off. Okay. You want to change? Seated by your
You
wife?
actually have a footstool connected to your chair.
Ooh.
It's a little remote.
That's a different
on
one.
the
Okay,
side,
huh?
but let me make sure it's fully charged. Want to make sure.
Oh.
Oh, you're good.
Is that your footstool?
Let's go with that chair.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we got.
Do you want this gorgeous lambskin, or is it bothering you?
I actually don't want it.
You don't want it?
Yeah, I think yes.
Okay. Yes.
Okay,
Oh no.
here we are. Only 1 year later.
Ready?
Is someone recording?
I don't know.
I'm recording. Yeah.
I'm just gonna put them on speaker.
Oh, somebody else recorded in case I was.
You got it. You're plugged in and
Okay.
everything, so that works.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Who's this guy, man?
Hi, Matt.
That's Nat.
Teasing.
Can you hear us?
Bro, there's a button on the side.
Yeah,
if
there's
you
a
wanna
button on the
extend
side
that.
if you want leg support.
What do you mean?
A little button that you can pull
Why?
your.
Oh wow.
You have to hold it down.
Touch and hold.
Other way.
Fancy.
Wow. Okay.
Wow, this is
Oh,
serious Thank you, guys.
it has a bag.
Huh? Huh?
No, you have to use the buttons every time.
Oh
I
man.
know, it's very tricky.
I'm sorry. Guys. Yeah,
It's quite entertaining.
They did that to you on purpose.
I
Just
heard
don't
you.
fall asleep.
Thank you. Oh, right. That's most likely happening. I slept very little last night. So, but good. Hey, that's nice boots, man.
Thank you.
We're comfortable. Shoot. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's my chili chatter. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, Justin and Ben and I were just chatting last time we met as teachers, just to, and Andy just kind of thinking, Tabernacles of last year was when we first sat down as a whole group, to
Oh
convene
wow.
about starting.
So that's why my
that's
year.
only been a
Oh
year.
wow.
Yeah.
That really feels like
Man.
longer than that. Anyway, and so in that conversation, we're like, well, maybe since we'll all be together, we can we have had one other parent-teacher meeting at the studio not too long ago, probably
Yes.
four-ish months or so ago. But I was just telling Justin, I don't know that I have any real direct, other than, direct conversation, other than really just, I want to be available to everyone that's parents that have had kids in the Culture Center now for the last year, and then maybe Tim or Manuel can touch in with some of the things we briefly discussed, if you remember, 4-ish months ago. And then, of course, to give Justin a little bit of time to catch us up on what's going to be covered
Great.
in this next section of time.
Okay.
And I'll kind of also update on any changes that have taken place, or that we don't have any clarity of what any new changes might look like yet, but that's okay, because we're pretty solid on what we've got coming up for the next, if you want to call it semester. I always trip up on what to call the time frame.
Term.
Your next term of time
Yeah.
with the kiddos. So I was going to ask Nicole if she would open us up in prayer for the time.
You maybe mentioned while I was messing with the dog, but this would be a great time to get some feedback from parents too.
I did a little bit, but no, I'm
Okay.
glad to reiterate
Yeah,
that. I really
that's,
do. We get to not hear from you guys
Yeah,
much. So.
consistent communication, maybe even some testimony of what you're seeing going on in your young ones' lives, or
Yeah.
things that we can do together. I know that the meeting that we had at the studio, we had some discussion related to, partnering in parenting.
Yeah.
And there's a primary and there's a partner. And, we want to,
What's the first one?
primary,
Primary
That-
as
that
parents.
the parents,
parents, it's a-
especially as it pertains
parents, I
to
see.
home life
Oh, I see.
and social life.
Okay.
And how we can work together with those things as children grow.
Hmm.
There's a lot of a lot of changes that take place in a young person's life and how they
Yeah.
learn how to relate to other people.
Yeah.
And it's helpful to be on the same front with them
Yes.
at home and at school. So
Yes.
anyway, it'd be good that's something that we can potentially discuss as well.
Yeah.
Nicole.
Father, the will of the Lord stands on firm ground here in this home and here in this community. I just pray over the time that it would be completely just upheld to you as an offering, as a sweet smelling aroma, Lord, that we might put these children before you and just receive from you a good word, a good word over their lives. And as you bring that through your sons here today, Father, I just pray that we are open to receive it, Lord, and even open to stand with it, honor it, and move forward in it
Thank you, Jesus.
as one. And I pray these things in your name.
Amen. Tim and Rich, what do you think, guys? What do you think to have Noah with us? So, if possible,
Sure. I don't know where he's at.
to
He wasn't here, but I'll text
Come
him
to
and see.
observe.
You probably just assume that. he was a
Yeah,
parent.
for sure.
yeah.
There's no parents or students. Yeah, so maybe we'll start there with if you guys have any input or feedback or questions or concerns or anything as parents, you know, let's maybe take the time to open up and hear from you guys so that we can address things or encourage things or, I'm gonna just text Noah really quick.
Hallelujah. Yeah. We are family, right?
Yeah.
I want to hear Lydia to say that.
No.
She's busy. I don't have a lot of chance to hear you. I know you have a lot of heart to educate young people, you know, so it's good to hear your feedback, you know, so yeah.
I guess one thing I will share, obviously I'm the one that's been added this year to the group, and I have seen a very, very positive growth in her, and though there was a lot of struggle through different times of the year, there was and I guess a fight within her, of false expectations of how she should be doing things that we didn't even know where they came from, because we're you've never been to a public school, and but I think it's just things that you hear from the world, and just she was very down on herself, but that brought a lot of things, just in not just in the education part, but in her own life, that helped us to kind of coach her through those struggles and times, and that's been a huge blessing, because we and also the Lord kind of brought us to the realization that we haven't done enough discipline. I don't know if you guys all can agree with that, but when you have a child and they're growing, you feel like you have to, in the beginning, there's so much, the 24/7 is discipline, and but then they all kind of got to an age, so okay, they're not gonna die, they're good. Then I know in myself, I just lay back a little bit, okay, but just this brought us back to hey, we need to step into that role of we still need to discipline, and it's even deeper now, because it's not just surface little childish things. Now it's helping them with
get in between your mom and
just helping them with the discipline of the soul, and I think it's been a huge blessing for us. That all of you guys have come along and helped us through that. And but I think as far for Emma, it's definitely she's still working through that. Even with the new classes and like something like poetry and things that she's never done before. She gets so stressed out about, you know. And anyway, so I think kind of so you guys know too, as the teachers to help her to release her from that. That's not what we're here for. You know, you're not here to get a grade or to get like to be the best, or there is no competition. You know, I know she has a competitive side within her, which is sometimes it cannot be very good, and I know that comes from me. So
Are you
yeah,
sure now?
that is not good. So, but yeah, I'm definitely very encouraged, and for myself too, I would love to be part of helping in whatever way the Lord wants me to. But I'm still waiting. I'm not. I tend to be a lot kind of like Cheryl to like I just want to go and do it and help, you know. But
We're learning. We're growing.
yeah, I'm just kind of holding back and just kind of waiting on the Lord to.
Time to add to it. Maybe brings a Spanish class going on, you know? So,
Uh-oh.
yeah.
I'll be happy.
Yeah, I would like to learn Spanish. Read
Alright.
some Spanish poems. I'm joking, but I'm serious. I want to learn
Spanish
English.
poem.
poems.
We're going right to Spanish poems.
Poems.
I thought we were doing
We're
flamenco.
not brothers.
Yeah, I know. We
Yeah.
need Yanni.
Yeah.
Did you know that her brother writes poetry?
She told me, I
Yes.
asked her, said, bring her poetry to me.
Okay.
And she, no beep.
Not
Nothing happens. Yeah.
Anyways, back to school.
No, that's great. So your brother, like poetry, is some kind of poet?
Yeah, that's
himself?
yeah.
He has a
wow.
published
Yeah.
book of
Please
poetry.
introduce him to me.
Okay.
Yeah, he knows English as well.
Oh.
Not really.
Well, there is a total field that lets us
But he
to
does
learn
speak
language.
Chinese, so you guys would.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
little
Well,
bit.
Spain's closer
Yeah.
to China than we are, so
Yeah.
What-
maybe,
So-
maybe there's some screening.
That's where you shine. You and the baby.
Chinish.
You know?
Chinish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
That's wonderful feedback.
Yeah.
Lady, you know, it's always good for us to continue to hone in how we define discipline.
Yeah.
You know, we don't ever define, obviously, young children to a certain extent need to experience the pains of the world to learn, and in other ways they need to be kept from certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of almost just learning dexterity, you know, and speech,
What's the word dexterity means? I'm so sorry.
how to move your limbs.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Okay,
it's a process. You learn to walk and
Fine motor control.
yeah, you
Oh,
get
yeah.
your motor skills and
Oh,
everything
okay.
else, and then you learn other ways of life. And but discipline is really teaching the right way, and that really applies once the child is, 9 or 10.
Yeah, and come
You
of
know, they
age.
need to start to learn the right way to do things. So I don't know if we ever view that as always following our children around and telling them what they're doing wrong. The scriptures tell us to lead a child in the right way, which is the idea there is not to chase them around. It's actually to come ahead of them so they know the right way to go.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to be left to make all their own decisions.
Yeah.
And so, that's unfortunately very counterculture right now, where, the culture as of the early 2000s really became let your child be free to figure out their own life, what they want to be, where they want to go, what they want to do, and just put safety boundaries around them. And then not only that, make sure that they have the best experience possible, because you're only a child once. And that has produced a generation that is completely self-absorbed and entitled. And we know that that's not a right way to raise a child, but that's different. That is not telling them no all the time. It's the lack of giving them any right direction in life. And that's true discipline. And children actually long for that kind of direction. So, you know, those are good things for our young people to discover is, you know, that's, where did that imagination of what life is come from? And I think it has, for a lot of our kids, come through peer influence from prior friendships and other people that are still living their life in a certain way. Not with bad parents, but maybe with and among people who are not really giving their children solid direction. They're letting their kids figure it out. And that's not safe for a child. They're not developed enough. They don't understand enough about the world. And so it's not a danger to give them good direction in life. So I'm glad to hear that Emma is making, and that's not Emma alone. I know that as well. You know, my children struggled through that to a certain extent in some years ago. I think Elijah and Naomi testified about that one night on Tuesday night, saying, you know, we didn't understand why our parents were giving us such a strong directive that was different than the other people around us until they finally saw the difference. And now it's very palpable to them. You know, they can really weigh out and see for themselves, oh wow, that is really different. At the time it felt the same, it looked the same, so we didn't understand why this difference was being cut. But now we can see it clearly, it's so obvious to us. And then, you know, they despise those ways, not the people, of doing things. You know, they said, that doesn't make any sense, you know, that's, or that causes harm or detriment. So, thank you for sharing.
It's very good to hear your feedback, especially for me. I have dialogue along this front, you know, with other characters here, except you. So good to hear you directly from you. So, yeah. And continue to open topic dialogue those things. You know, so Eddie for sure is able to communicate. We should trust in many regard, but you know, those conversations. Co-parenting am I required to talk about it, you know, so a teacher in the particular setting, dialogue with them, you know, bring to them. And I think they understand the struggle, they're able to appropriate the young life's particulars, then adapt to it, or else we're hard to figure out what's going on, you know, so yeah. So I think that's very helpful. It's not burden, I think it's enabling, you know, so we can work together to help young one make transition. So yeah. Rachel, you're going to have to guide this conversation. I'm just try to.
I'm just being patient.
Are you
People-
patient?
Yeah,
Patient?
be patient.
Go ahead.
There are people
Mm-hmm.
that want to share, and I'm not forcing anybody
Yeah,
to
yeah.
share, but I just was trying to give an opportunity for anybody that did, hopefully we can jump into something else.
I'll say that Hannah is absolutely loving the input, the environment. She's just like thriving. She's waiting for her test on Greek roots. She's got like her siblings. She has like a day of the week that certain siblings are to ask her about certain roots. I mean, she just like loves it so much. So it's been really wonderful to see her joy and, you know, just enjoyment of the whole thing. So thank you guys for that. I definitely, you know, see that she's receiving, you know, things that I could not personally give to her. And it's really just a joy for her. So super
Always
grateful
a
for that.
blessing to see Hannah so attentive, you know. With understanding again, it's learn. She almost like don't want to lose a beat, you know.
She also pulls out her notes to show us things.
Is that right?
Yeah.
It's impressive. I'm impressed.
Right here, it was we were talking about.
Yeah.
She loves to share. So
Yeah.
it's very cute.
Very good student.
Yeah.
Well, it's good, and it's really good for her as well to be
Mm-hmm.
the small fish
Yep.
when she's been in our household,
Mhm.
the eldest for so long.
Yeah.
To be able to be on the other end of it, positive.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah.
I think she's also really benefited and enjoyed working in the Polis groups. You know, she often talks about Isaac and Caden and what they've said and what they're working on. So I think that is a really excellent structure
Wow.
to help the younger
Oh,
kids.
that's a city-state concept.
And not only for just the academic part, but the whole like working together and well, we were gonna meet, but then we had to wait, and like all of that is really good for her because she's very independent and just always running ahead like on her own pace.
Like
Again,
a boom,
our
like a
children
boom.
reflecting ourselves, but it's super good for her to have to work with someone else and like coordinate with them. And
Yeah.
I also love that she's getting to know Isaac and Caden differently than she would have because they're working together, you know. So anyway, I wanted to give
Yeah, I
that
think
feedback
that's
as well.
Across the board, been a really good introduction for the kids who, because they've mostly been schooled in home, and then even starting with the Culture Center back when it was just my siblings, or all my kids, and then Kayla, and then Benji. But you know, a smaller group.
Yes.
You know, to have that extension and be able to really learn how to work together with your
Yes.
peers has been,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
a really great experience, I think, for them overall. And the ages vary,
Yeah.
obviously, so it's been
Yeah.
a good, like,
If
Yeah.
I can append to that, then you know, Noah, Elaine, later on Ben. I'm sorry, and you came on board first, but you know, hey, I just lost your name, man.
Justin.
Justin, sorry. I was thinking like
It's always Justin.
Justin. Anyway.
This guy.
Sorry. Apologies. So many names.
It's alright.
It's Justin, Miss Justin, am I? Someone said, oh my God,
That's alright, my dad forgot who I was.
Let me
Oh. So bad.
Also, last night, you guess what? I'm reading from Plato to Christ. A chapter finished called the Polis. And I'm reading Polis for Polis. It's last night. In the middle of the night, I didn't sleep. I read the book a lot, and I want to read it. And it's amazing how God. That word, the first time. I mean, maybe I encountered, but last night, that word set up, and the author dedicated Platonic, you know, Socrates history there dedicates the concept in the eighth, whatever, you know, of politics. That's so interesting. I don't think that can do. My point is trying to encourage seeing God is doing things. It's amazing to me. It's amazing to me. And prior to this morning, because certain thing going on, I have very engaging conversation with
Benji's
with
father.
no, I know your name. And about the education, what how lost, I use the word lost ahead, you know. So I just casual conversation. We wade into that territory. Now, Noah, I come on board. I want you to be fully participate in this conversation. Okay, so especially you, that with some beautiful young people there, some observation, maybe beyond the classroom in the studio, but you have a lot of observation and input in the past and ongoing. Feel free to speak whatever role you feel comfortable with, to help us improve. That is next season gonna unfold. So yeah, back to you, sister. I'm sorry.
Alright. Were you finished up? You said Polis. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of touch on too a little bit what Lady was saying and Tim said as well in regard to that relationship that we're growing in. Even maybe it's been a year, but the Lord has been allowing us to grow into that. I feel maybe even more so the fullness of what it looks like to co-parent, whatever word we want to use. Recently, the Lord's kind of laid upon my heart to have Cheryl help me a little bit with Esther as she's coming into her last 2 years of high school, and not so much. Yes, topic related, but I feel like the Lord has gifted Cheryl greatly in
Yes.
study habits, and obviously she loves to teach, and she loves to bring others up to, and encourage others in not just scholarly ways, but obviously in how to learn, you know? And so, I don't know, I think it's funny, because Cheryl and I have known each other for a couple days, you know,
Okay.
for a little bit of our lives.
I believe.
But I think recently we've just, and not recently, it's actually been on my heart for a while now, but you know, life's been life, and so, I don't know, I think the Lord has perfect timing, and we need to be available, not outside of, not just inside the culture center setting. I think the Lord's allowing us to do that in many other ways too, and being open and available to His leading in that, how He brings it about. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to add that on as we talked about how the Lord's allowing us to kind of come together and use our gifts and abilities as parents and as those to walk alongside our young ones. I just recently got to sit down with Kayla for the first time on a personal level. Obviously, I've also known Kayla since she was 5. I mean, she was so little when we first met. Only last. But just to see the beauty and the creativity in her individually, that I knew was there, you know, but I haven't had a lot of one-on-one, and I'm just so excited about what's in store there and how God's going to use that just in my life. I pray in her life. I pray that the Lord allows me to bless her life. But I'm certainly not alone in that. You know, I feel like we're all in this room have that same heart and desire in many ways, maybe still flourishing, maybe still fruiting out, you know, in desiring to pour into these young people and who they are, and, you know, even what we discussed last night, or was becoming very evident last night about the next generation, you know, and building up and, you know, pointing out the signs and the ways. That's not gonna come by happenstance. You know, the Lord is growing us and building us up to be able to walk alongside our young people and build them up and show them the way. So, obviously, we know, it goes without saying, that this time that we're teaching and bringing in educational matters is definitely just a part of it, a small part of it. So, so it's exciting to.
I guess I have a testimony too. I was just thinking of school, because I don't go there. And my kids talk to him, but they don't talk to me about it. But I do have a testimony about about what you're talking about, because it is so exciting for me to see mostly my older two, but even my younger, the 2 boys, like coming to engage with adults and want that relationship. Like Kayla's excitement over being with you. Kayla's excitement over seeing Kim. Kayla asking if she can go to work early so she can spend time with Katie. I mean, the value she's seeing within other women and even men is really, I don't know, like even when she had, Emmanuel and I were talking and she came in and then she was getting ready, she's like, I love you both, bye. And I'm like, yeah, she does. Yeah, she does. And so, and like even Caden last night stayed up till 1 o'clock in the morning just sitting and observing. He could have gone off with his friends, but he wanted to be here. He just wanted to be here. Not because I was here, because I was like, you can go if you want. He's like, oh no, just sitting quietly. And then engaging, and then watching him just go and engage with adults, or even Kayla with you last night, Andy, or Katie with you. You know, like the value that you guys have to offer my children is just pure gold. Like it's so beautiful, and I love that they want it. So that's been really encouraging to see them want it.
Thank the Lord they want it.
Yes.
Hope
Amen.
we do a good job. Continue to improve.
I think the reasons they wanted to aren't to get something from. It's the relationship that is what is desired. Because it's what's been practiced, I think. And so I think, we're definitely in a season where it's gone from observational to engagement. Where there is a sitting back, and now it's like, no, we get to be able, because last year at this time, some of the discussion was very much like, how do we get these kids to see that it's not just kid time and that there's adult time, but it's you know, and a full calendar year later we're seeing, I think, the fruits of that.
A lot
relational
beautiful
engagement.
changes.
I think too with Noah and Benji and Naomi, even seeing the gravitation towards them as well and the value that they see in the older.
Ah, yes, yes.
Well,
Yes.
and brother, I think that has so much to do with what God has put in your heart and instilled in, you know, you say the apple of God's eye, you know, what,
Oh, yes,
you know, even though there might not be full understanding and full grasping what's going on in the spirit,
yes.
right? I think
Yes.
there's so much of the leading of your heart before the Lord and
Thank
what
you.
your,
Yes. Mhm.
even though it's very, right, very specific in the scriptures, but often maybe Matthew doesn't get talked about that day. You know, like the
Oh,
Lord
I see.
allows that
I see.
time
Yeah, yeah.
in purpose to study His Word, to very much be available and open to what the Spirit's doing and how the Spirit's moving in
Yes,
each
yes.
individual's lives. And
Yes.
I think that's, and then of course our times together outside of, you know,
Yeah.
Culture Center time, but
Yes.
allowing them, yes, the observation to see something different. Like Tim said before, our kids were kind of like, why is everything so different than what I see elsewhere and what goes on in people around me that
Oh, yeah.
don't quite do things the same way?
Mm.
That hemming in a little bit of, you know, putting that guard around how we spend our time and how we even think about the future, and even our education, you
Thank
know,
you,
which
Lord.
that's been
Thank you,
that's
Lord.
been something that I am not a very scholarly gal, in case you guys didn't know.
You
That
done tremendous job.
Well,
I
I'm
think
just
a
saying,
scholar
like,
will
even
ruin
though-
the job, rather something.
even though I'm not, I've had to let go of my idea of,
Yeah.
oh, things really should be this way.
Yeah.
They're not, you know,
Okay.
damaging someone
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
you know, somebody's gonna. And
Yeah.
I still, even to this day, I still struggle with that to a
Yeah.
degree, and just really learning to,
Yeah.
obviously, we need discipline, we need structure,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with those things,
Yes.
and those are things I've been having to learn, but I think that it's a beautiful thing to see how the Lord is really growing,
Yes,
our
yes.
children in this family of God
Thank
culture,
you, Lord.
and
Thank you, Lord.
we're still trying to figure it out fully, but I feel very confident that, you know, our hearts are combined and unified
Yes.
and
Yes.
ready to take the next steps
Thank
and
you,
ready
Lord.
to be
Thank you.
available to things that need to change, things that need to be
Yeah.
rewired or adjusted in any way,
Mm.
with you know, having a humble heart before Him in that, but also excited and ready to grow, you know, and
Bless
what's
the Lord.
next. So
Bless the Lord.
anyway.
I was talking to Andy, and someone observed young girls climb down the top of one group, you know, line, and it's how many girls, but you know, a line of girls, one after another, like you know. And this morning I wake up, you know, took another walk trying to meet sister Nicole, and found 5 to 7 young boys there to help one another, you know, leave their little game on the basketball yard. Everybody tried to help one another have a good time. I'm just a serious walls breaking down
Thank you, Lord.
and beautiful friendship first. And we really begin to open up how I feel, I should care about in the moment to really enjoy the true friendship there, right? So yeah, and they found their own niche, you know, which is beautiful, you know. So and so there's organic things move on and taking place and let them flourish. And I want to also register another thing is a thank for you and team and your whole family. What I'm thankful about is through the years, the willingness to put your young ones before the Lord. First, trust me. In many regards, that's a great privilege, honor. That's why I'm passionate about treat them right and the apple of my eyes. It's a joy. It's really a joy. It's not a sacrifice for me. It's really joy for me, reward for me, to able to pour in their life and see them flourish in life. And the change, I like the word palpable. But you guys have made a way for a greater incorporation, right? Co-effort, co-parenting, building young ones together. You, the ones leading charge. Hallelujah. Rachel, you deserve a lot of credit for that. Because that's not normal mom do. Sorry. And Tim is more balanced. Mom emotional, on the like a hang, Tim more balanced, give a lot of parameters, Mom definitely need to care, want to see what's going on. But you have learned to work with the harmony and beautiful progression to see the season and the growth young ones. But I think there's a wonderful dynamic going on. I'm not seeing every Zoom, every episode, every detail or occasion. But overall, there's such a beautiful thing taking place. Yeah. And give other young parents, sorry to mention that, the freedom, the confidence that this can be helpful. This can be good, And that open door for God's culture, not indoctrinate them, but like a dew from heaven. Come to each garden, So I think that's wonderful, and that's something we, the one maybe do the teaching cannot do. Only you guys can do as parents. Think about the power of that. Thank you, Jesus. Amen. But you carry on. Just wanted to identify that.
I mean, I don't want to cut anybody off, Ken. I don't know if you have anything, or Matt. I don't know if you can even talk, but you guys are welcome to chime in if you have anything to share, and then we'll kind of open the door for Justin to kind of share what's coming up here in the next term.
Matt, you have anything to share?
No, I don't. Thank you.
You must share. Yes,
Do you have anything? No.
No,
Yes,
but you must.
Sorry. Yes.
Oh, you're just kidding, you do.
No, I really want to hear him. I mean,
Oh my God.
that family have lots of changes going on. For sure, still in great progress, a lot of struggle, but a lot of beautiful things taking place. And when you guys, and you guys time with us a little bit near the shore a little bit, and the near impact in short time the thing changed. I think it's worthy for all of us to hear your perspective, so and especially address concerns, address uncertainties, or even corrections, so don't feel incapable of doing that, or we not going to cherish that. It's a great joy to hear you out and to learn from you guys in a greater way. That's where I came from, so yeah. You guys went through a lot. And the children are beautiful. With your journey and the weight of the troubles you carried along the way, and children beyond beautiful. So maybe the certain regard with different standard will say, oh, maybe here or there doesn't fit. In overall, I think they done tremendously. Actually, I think it's a miracle. I mean, so you as a parent have done very good job to bring them along and naturally flourish and become part of the community. I'm not talking about that in a cheesy way to come correctly. I'm thinking that's a reality check. That's a real. If I'm changing shoes with you, I don't think I can do a better job. almost unthinkable for me. From man to you to young ones. I don't know. I can survive that. As I was standing at today, where you guys are, each one of you, I'm just saying this. God definitely have tremendous support. You guys definitely have the right heart, so to the young ones. That's where I came from. I really wanted to see we can hear your observation, concerns, or even question, as the word said, so I mean it. So
I mean, I can start with Matt had to drop. It's been very encouraging to me, just looking at from last year. And I see it community-wide, but also in my nuclear family, that spirit of familiarity, it really was our mode. I don't even think the kids or I can't speak for Matt, even realized what we were operating under. And so I think that the Culture Center in particular, and just relating in this community, has helped us see the things that we do out of default. And that's been, I mean, it's just been so encouraging to be able to talk to my kids about that and then have an understanding of what that is. So I don't even have to necessarily do instruction. I can say, that's familiar. And everybody just kind of does a hard stop and thinks.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's a very different mode of operation for us.
Yes.
And it's just been encouraging.
Thank you, Lord.
And then I think one of the things that we are definitely in the process of, but my heart before the Lord in teaching the kids, there's a perspective that I wanted them to learn all these things, and it really wasn't about what we were learning, but the process of it. But honestly, it was like me shouting into the wind until this last year, because it's something that's been on my heart for a long time. It's actually why the Lord laid it on my heart to homeschool in the first place. But it was me trying to explain that to everybody with no context. And so for me personally, it has been an affirmation from the Lord to then have them be part of something that's not coming from me, where they're able to see, man, the process actually matters. How we learn actually matters. How we relate to each other, the development of those relationships, the order of those relationships, the honor we give each individual based on what the Lord has given them. But being able to honor people not necessarily from age, but from where the Lord has them. Those are all things that they're just naturally going through that process, and I'm not having to say a word. And then I hear Isaac, without me saying anything, he understands it, and he's speaking from wisdom to them.
Yes.
And that order, it's not that I've been taken out, although I will fully admit that my flesh has struggled being pulled out of that. The Lord has just affirmed so much, and I'm not pulling you out, I'm just changing the order. And it's so beautiful, because when Isaac hears that truth and speaks in that order and is able to point that out in them, it's not a me blowing in the wind.
Sure. Yeah.
They care because they relate to him.
Yes.
Right? And
Yes.
it's different coming from somebody their age.
Yes.
Who says the same thing in a different way. And
Yes.
so, I don't know, I've just been very encouraged. Isaac's always had my back. It's not that. He always has tried to back up everything I've said, even when he doesn't understand it.
I see.
It's just a very different place for him to understand the the wisdom that comes in working in that particular order. I mean, a very silly example, but it's a good example, I think, is in this Polis group. You know, Hattie's like, I don't know what to do, and I don't understand, and it's this, you know, this chaos. And Isaac's like, well, have you spoken to your Polis leader? And she doesn't want to do that. She wants to go directly to the source because she doesn't want there to be misunderstandings. But in that process, it has taught her, and I think also taught the people in her Polis group. You know, we're all learning and growing. So anyway, I don't want to say we have it handled by any means, but I definitely see the process and the beauty of what it's producing, just in my little nuclear family.
I think that's what you're saying there is the sentiment of the Apostle Paul, and it always was. He said, I haven't yet attained, but I know the path that I'm on.
Amen.
And, you know, Christians have always judged each other based on attainment and never on the path.
Oh yes.
And the majority have never been on the path, but presume attainment based on knowledge intellectually. It's a completely different life. In that sense, even how we deal with offense and sin and all the brokenness of humanity takes a back seat. Because all that really matters is the path.
Yes.
Are we on the path? You know?
Beautiful.
I had a really engaging discussion with my mom a week or so ago.
That's you handed it the other day talking.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah.
And
When your
you know,
dad was, how was that?
yeah, he's still out of
yeah,
town.
yes.
When he
Oh,
when
yes.
he disappeared.
Yes, yes.
Oh my goodness.
But after we were relieved that he was found,
Uh-huh.
and then it was funny because she had invited me a few days prior to that. She said, I made a carrot cake and I want you to come by and have a piece. And so
Oh.
I kept missing my date to get over there and sit
yeah.
and spend some time with her.
How was it good?
And so
Tastes good?
oh, she makes
Joke.
really good carrot cakes.
Serious?
Anyway,
Aw.
that's not the point. I like
No,
then
that
I'm
is
over
the
there
point.
because my dad's this and I'm like, I'm not eating cake.
Oh.
Yeah, so we were just talking and praying, and then when he was found and cried and prayed, and we were like, okay, let's have some cake. Anyway, so we're chatting, we're having our piece of cake, and she's like, you know, brings up some things that are related to disagreement because she so longs for unity. She wasn't bringing it up to argue,
Sure.
but she's like bringing a couple things up.
Present
and,
case. Yeah.
You know, you guys are weird. I was
Oh,
like, yeah, I know. Anyway, so I brought up, I'm getting to a point, but it was the context of the conversation where I was like, you know, there are things that we see differently on, but that doesn't mean that we can't love and live together. You know, and I said, even take the worst case scenario with, you know, like that you guys would think, which is, and I brought up the doctrine of eternal salvation, which is one that you just don't touch with the fundamentalists.
I see. They call the
Anyways.
fundamental. I see.
But
Okay.
the correlation is in this though, because the more that I over the years had wrestled with that particular doctrine and this idea that something can never be lost or related to the spirit and other things. And I thought, you know, rather than argue this from what's in the Bible,
Yeah.
because the scriptures, the apostles and Jesus in different places indicate one here and another there, so what's the difference?
Yeah.
And so, you know, eventually I came to the point, and this is what I explained to my mom, was what's the fruit of one understanding versus another?
Yeah.
And I said, you know, what may seem to you to be a worst case scenario, which is that someone might believe that they could be separated from God in some way, then if there is a conviction of sin and any level of repentance, then they turn to God. So in the end, they turn to God with a repentant heart because they feared separation from Him. You know, whereas that's the best. And otherwise, if they turn from God, then clearly their heart wasn't to follow God.
Yeah.
You know, and so you know, God's righteous judgment is on their life in either case, but one has the potential to produce repentance. I said, in the other, the potential fruit is that we just have this idea that everything is right because we believe it to be so, but it might not be. And it has the potential to produce a calloused heart against God. So if those are the two potential fruits, then is this really something that should be argued about and disagreed on? And she said, no, not at all. My point is that it's the process
Yes.
of salvation,
Yes.
you know, that we're working out. And as long as we know, I mean, that's been what is, you know, just as an encouragement to Kim and Matt, so encouraging to see is that there's not been any part of them that has ever said, here, we've got it, or we even know how to get it. But they've turned the trajectory of their life to go in a certain direction, and they're letting God work it out.
Yes.
And that is
That's heroic. That's real courage for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah.
it's the only thing that will produce the good fruit. I mean, like, if you want to see the miracles of God, then find yourself in a place where you can't do something. But you look to what God can do. And with hope, expectation, and thanksgiving.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus.
And also thank God that we're not in terms of the purpose, the will, and the working out of God's plan, we're not a fledgling little people. You know, we're a small number. We're not perfect. But the trajectory that God has given us is something that is not our own. It belongs to Him.
Yes, Jesus. Thank you.
And so it is never, and I think this is the sentiment of the Apostle Paul too, it's never to make an excuse for any sort of rebellion or hard-heartedness or shortcoming or anything like that. No, there's no excuse. Christ's blood is all sufficient, for sure, but are we on the path? And that's where, on the other side, Paul says, His grace is sufficient.
Yes.
Where sin abounded, grace that much more.
Yeah.
But not because of some work that we did or miss that we made, but that our eyes were fixed on the path.
Yes.
And, you know, the Lord talks about that in the Old Testament too. I think David really experienced that in his walk with the Lord. Not that he never made mistakes, but that he never took his eyes off of the one who had his heart.
Thank you, Lord.
And God knew that too. God was still upset, judgmental, and wrathful toward David, like a son, though. He never, any time, and that's the sentiment of David in the Psalm when he says, when he's pleading back to the Father, don't take your presence away from me.
Yes.
Don't remove your spirit. That's not just a doctrinal you have it or you don't. It is a proclamation of a disturbed intimacy with God.
Yes.
And he says, I can't do that. I need to know where you're at. And when David struggled to find it, just like some of the other, well, actually there's a long history of those who struggled to find that. David did that. He went into the tabernacle or to the tent. I went into the holy place. I wanted to see, I had to find God. Later on, Elijah ran to Mount Horeb, because he didn't know where else to go. But he was willing to go as far as he thought he needed to find peace in the only place he knew that it existed. And whether they did so rightfully or wrongfully, God met them there.
Yeah.
That's fascinating to me. At one point, God says to Elijah, "What are you doing here?" Like, you don't have to do this. But he was so merciful with him. And I think Paul did the same thing. He ran to that place. tradition holds that he went to Horeb and wanted to hear God and on the same mountain. And it's not about that being a sacred place so much as it is the pursuing heart, stature that was in a man.
Yes.
And in that case, God always made himself available.
Yes.
Whenever man came to God on those terms, even if God said, well, you know, you're a little out of place here, but you came for me, and here I am. And God still does that.
Amen.
That is really amazing to me.
Yeah.
And that is where I think that the overflow of Paul's exposition there is grace abounds. It's amazing where God breaks through along that line. And so the reason I'm sharing this is for us as parents not to be discouraged along the way. You know, as parents with young children or teenage children, whatever it is, where we need to, and I think there's a lot of ancient adages and wisdom that go along with this, to keep our, I think Emmanuel's used the illustration of he just used it last night with the ark and the boat. You know, that is a refuge for many others. And so if your boat isn't floating, and if you're not maintaining its right presence, then whoever's in it can't be safe either. You know, and that's like that sphere of relationships that we have in our life, and the various responsibilities relationships that we have in our life. And so it's not selfish in that sense for the head of a house, a father, to go to great lengths to be in right standing before God, because it's consequential for his whole family. Same thing for a mother, same thing for an older brother, you know, to different extents. Same thing for a good friend or for a teacher. You know, those are things that the writers of Scripture, under the inspiration of the Spirit, put a lot of weight on, and said these are very considerable relational placements, and so, you know, treat them as such, because what you do, who you are, to those whom God has given you is very consequential. So I know that burden has been carried by Justin and Ben and all those who have been put in and I know Rachel as well, who have been put in any place of decision making or influence with our young people. And I'm really thankful for their hearts along that.
Yes.
Amen.
Okay, I'm setting a 30-minute timer because we have just a few more minutes to wrap things up, and I really want to be sure to cover all things. But I don't want to put you on the spot, but you know, I don't know if the Lord's given you any new perspective of, you know, as you've kind of led the young men's study, which I know is not, you know, obviously not a part of the Culture Center itself, but definitely an extension thereof. So you don't have to spew anything off the top of your head per se, but if the Lord has kind of placed on your heart any new insight or enlightenment in that role, or maybe I'm not using the right word, but I mean, it's certainly, and as Emmanuel even pointed out, and others as well, just been such a joy to be a part of that and listening to the recordings and just see what God's doing in each one of your hearts. And so I don't know if that's making any sense, but if you have any input or what, you know, even just to share the joy of that time for you as, you know, walking alongside your peers in some ways, but also those that are coming up somewhat behind you and learning the ways
Like a
of the Lord.
rainbow.
You know, please feel free to chime in if you have anything. He's cracking me up.
Okay. Sorry.
He's like, I'm gonna be part of this. This is fun.
I will say that in our times thus far, I really realized that there is so much in the hearts of those young men that just is wanting to come out and make itself known.
Yeah.
And it's brought almost an astonishment to me, because I knew that there was in our things in them that are beautiful and profound, but the fact that there has been so much that has come out already has been a real surprise to me.
Remind me, just want to share a testimony, the same sentiment your dad, you know, we hear you guys talk about certain things, tear in his eyes, said, there's some profound thing in my boy girls.
Yeah.
And he's so happy about it. Their poems sometimes, and especially, you know, touches some part of him, just like literally kind of holding back, you know. So yeah. Anyway, go ahead. I just wanted to think
Millie,
that's a beautiful
come.
sentiment
Millie, come.
to see.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know I'm not sharing anything that everyone doesn't already know. I think we all are aware that the young ones have so much to offer themselves. It's just a matter of getting them to share it. And I know that's also the struggle for anyone that has been put in the position of a teacher, is to really get the kids to that place where they feel that they have that freedom to do so. And one thing that, I mean, there are many factors I think that play into a time like the Young Brothers meeting that enables them to do that. Obviously there's the environment, there's only a few of us, there's not as many people. But then myself, as one that's kind of put in the position of a director in their midst, is something that I have made sure to address several times in various meetings that we've had together, in making sure that they know that while I do serve a role of making sure that the conversation goes in a certain direction and that there's some sense of order, I also let them know that I'm very much, and in many ways, at their level. So I don't superimpose myself on them as if I am the center of discussion, or as if I'm even any kind of teacher in that time. Rather, we're exploring themes and subjects that are meaningful to all of us in the same way. We're trying to find we're trying to practice a similar passion altogether. And when it's done with that sense of companionship and I don't know if equality is the right word, because it's not a matter.
Camaraderie?
Yeah, that's
That's a good word, yes.
position is not really what is emphasized in the engagement of that time. It's a time where we are in an unspoken way doing things together as brothers. And that's what really, I think, enables that time to be so fruitful, is when those relationships are so natural and settled in the way that they are, that they allow things to play out in a really fruitful way. So
I've been so encouraged and envious of that time. When I say envious, I mean, like, I really would have liked to have had that as a young man.
That's what I said last night.
I know.
Yeah.
It's just because I was in an environment to engage with others, even all the way through college, and it was always argument. It was always a different opinion. And actually that's what was promoted, was not to pursue unity, but to pursue and prove your individual standpoint. And so, I mean, among others, that's probably one of the only times I've ever lost my temper, was with someone that was just wanting to argue. And it was in college. And I just said, I don't ever want to talk to you again. Because I don't want to argue. Like, just to have a point to prove made me crazy. And, that was probably one of the ugly lessons of Bible school and seminary. I hated that about it. I refused to participate in it. But I found myself doing it later. I don't know if it was from the standpoint of some sort of self-righteousness as much as a passion to know and understand God. My point is this, that like what Ben said, that word camaraderie, there is a common goal. And so the pursuance of understanding and shared mutual engagement is to the same end. It's not individual pursuit of knowledge and understanding. So amazingly, you know, I'm reminded of what I don't remember where it's said. I guess maybe it's in a psalm or wherever, but it says, "So good when brothers dwell in unity." It's like the oil of being poured down Aaron's beard. Like you guys you have something that is very rare. You know, only the kind of camaraderie there. The only even example, I'm sure there have been many, but it's like the brotherhood of those in Les Miserables, the young men who share a passion that's beyond their own lives for a greater good for people, and they're willing to set everything else aside for that agreement, for that commitment, for that passion. And so, because it's a passion
True friendship
and a pursuit, then you know it's very evident in what you guys discuss and how you communicate with one another, that it is to enable one another to pursue the same end. And you know that's definitely God honoring and encouraging for those of us who are witnessing it.
And translate the Lord's friendship with us into tangible grassroots friendship. And without that, there's a lot is missing in terms of being healed with the love of God. And then able to express our love to one another. From God, fatherly love enable us to be sons and learn love one another as brothers. Brother love or friendship, I call you friends, right? It's Jesus who said, "This I want to teach you. This I want to disciple you." So it's a very tangible thing. We often brush aside and say, "Oh, it's very documentary, you know, I can survive life." I just need a good partner in life, you know, husband, wife, those kind of things.
Yes.
But there are totally different dimensions. We have a God-based friendship, common value, common vision-based, and even sacrificial, requires some sacrifice on your part. And do it out of joy, lay down your own interests one another, and know it's highly valued, appreciated, and will bear much fruits. That's such joy. That's my joy I give to you, Jesus said. That's his joy. The joy has some economic support, am I? Something substantially take place. It's my joy I give to you. I give you this fellowship, man. I want you to have this friendship, to be a fountainhead, to touch many lives, and that friendship or that fellowship is not to be defiled or replaced by another way. Brother love is expression, coded word in the Bible, talking than fellowship, than kind of. And Jesus said, this is the discipleship is all about. And that's Passover, Jesus having teaching about that, am I? Being the wine, not the wild wine, but the fruitful wine. This all you bear much fruit.
Amen.
It's a mystery. It's mystery. That's why every epistle, the apostles emphasize this love in the body of Christ. and we often say, I know what I mean. We're doing it. But we projected or reflected or tap into another, to the best, maybe only a fraction of it, if not a replacement of it. Sometimes with mixture or some, literally translate some toxic stuff, right? So, yeah. But that being said, Noah, we thank you for your leadership. I like that word. That your life is a wonderful example that I think those young brothers was able to endear themselves to you. And that's because the support for them to do that, feel free to do that, is beyond merely how you manage that particular time. Your whole life, as a way you carry yourself, speak a better word to support for them to do that. So, congratulations. I'm delighted with you. Amen. So, that being said, I know you have some practical.
Yeah, I just really want to hear from Justin if you want, I mean, whatever you feel led to, I don't know, I guess you've written a synopsis of sorts or, for the parents to kind of know what's coming, but if there's anything in addition to share, even feedback from, and from you and Ben both, and Andy, if you have anything from the past term, heading into the next one, but also what to look forward to, at least until the beginning of next year time frame. So that's the practical stuff. But anything else, obviously, that you want to share, please.
Well, I will say, I'm deeply appreciative of the entrustment of the lives of the kids. It is not it's not taken lightly.
Thank you, Lord.
It's been, I think any expectation we would have had sitting here last year, the Lord has far exceeded.
Amen.
I think the work that is taking place in the hearts of each, not just the older ones, to see the shifting of their hearts go from receiving to really being active participants and taking the responsibility of being leaders in, not just in the sense of the polis itself, because that's one thing to create a structure. It's a whole other thing to see the ownership of that structure, because the way that it was set up, I mean, even in the class, our instruction has been, I think from both Ben and I, has been very open-handed. It has been less like, and you're gonna do this, and this is how you do it, and that's how you do it. It's been much more like, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna figure that out? How's that work? And so to see them over the course of this last year, struggle through it, but arrive at some really deep places. Isaac's a real good example in class of one who was, I don't think we heard a word from him for the first 3 or 4 months. Didn't say anything, but you could tell he was observing. But increasingly, when the opportunity has come in class where something might need to be said, without having to address it at all, Isaac will rise up and address it. And then seeing some of our ladies who tend to be a little bit more quiet. Esther is a good example of somebody who generally doesn't engage a lot outwardly, but observing her and hearing her subtly direct, encourage, gather, like she's becoming much more vocal amongst her peers. And so I think the work that is being done there has been a very quick work.
Thank you, Lord.
Because I think, if I'm being honest, this time last year, there was a lot of conversation of just like, how are we gonna get them to, like the older kids need to really start stepping in, and not a lot has shifted. I don't think it's been like things that we've done. I would say, again, I think the credit goes to all of the community, parents, all of the engagement, the heart shift towards really saying, okay, Lord, what are you doing here? How do you want to operate in this way? So the things that are coming we'll maintain the Polish groups are pretty much here to stay.
Nice.
I'm trying to wrap up Greek history, and really I say history loosely because what the Lord has led has been much more about counterfeit culture and how the Greeks represent counterfeit culture. And we've talked about it this way: the sons of Greece are represented by following the soul, which is I want, I think, I feel. So mind, will, emotions. Whereas we as sons of God obviously are to be ruled by the Spirit of God and led by the Spirit of God. And so we've used history as kind of the backdrop to help us navigate. How did the Greeks think? What were their pursuits? Knowledge was really important. But this is why it's wrong-headed or wrong-hearted or wrong-minded. Because its pursuit is all in appeasing the soul. And so with Greek history as well, there's so much of it is just, I'm not going to teach on those subjects because it is perverse.
Yeah.
And so that's one of those
That's why
primary
we
reasons
trust
we
you.
didn't read the book, primarily because of this reason. So I waded through all of the minutia and garbage to try to distill things like polis, city-states, things that would be useful to us to observe culturally. So as that is wrapping up, probably over the next 2 to 3 weeks, I've encouraged each of the kids to prayerfully consider a biography, because that's the next part of history. We go American history, world history, then biography. And so I really felt impressed upon by the Lord this time. One of the topics that came up was in Ben's class, and then it trickled over into my class, was really about being willing. Being a willing participant. And I felt like the Lord really directed me to open it up for the kids to, I'm not going to tell you who we're going to do a biography on. You're going to seek the Lord. And you're going to ask your parents. And you're going to engage in dialogue. And you're going to see where the Lord leads. And so I'm trying to flesh out what that looks like as far as like the studies. But what it'll look like is Polish groups and conversation. And we'll be highlighting different parts of like childhood, significant events in their life. What does it mean? Why is that significant? And so in many ways, the purpose of it will be much more geared around teaching the kids from a practical standpoint. How do you research? How do you study? How do you understand? And how do you take information and then process that in a way that you can then communicate, right? Because the best way we learn is to teach.
Absolutely.
It's not to be downloaded information. And that's never been the heart. I know it's certainly never been my heart. I know Tim has shared that before in the teaching times of what is the purpose here. It's not intellectual, right? There's a relational dynamic there, and so hopefully, and I'm going to send out an email or a text over the next few days. Everyone has solidified where they believe they're at with the Lord in that, and there was an encouragement too to make sure that there's pre-approved, because obviously there's some people historically that are just, we're not going to deal with that. And there are some things with people that, you think this is a really good person, then you go, oh man, there's some touchy stuff. So, so that's history. The literature, as you guys are all pretty aware, the Lord led me really clearly to read the book Frankenstein, which is a lot more tame than most people perceive it to be. Let's just put it that way. I mean, the modern culture understanding of Frankenstein with the bolts in the neck and the murderous monstrous, that's not what it really is. It really, at the heart of it, it really is a story about, it really is about the Father, properly understanding God's heart towards his creation. It is told in a way that she gives a very wrong example of what does it mean to be a father for something that's been created. It's about companionship and fellowship, love and affection, the wrong-headed pursuit of knowledge versus the right context of relationship. And so I shared this, I think, with Tim about a month or so ago. The way that I teach isn't really changing a whole lot, but I think the emphasis for me, increasingly over the last year, what I've been struggling with personally and trying to best communicate, not the subject matter to the kids, but the way that the Lord utilizes us as a people, is seeing that there's still been not that there's a hurdle between me and the parents, but the communication is it's difficult. It's a very difficult thing outside of me calling or texting. And so as I sent out the information around Frankenstein, I will be sending out stuff again collectively. And my encouragement is, as much as we can, to read it as families. And maybe it's not a set reading time where we all read it together, but if I could highly encourage parents to be engaging in the reading, whether it's audiobook or whatever, because I will be sending out, it's going to be less like watch this video type stuff. It'll be much more me recording, maybe a 1 to 5 minute kind of recap, something to consider, something to talk about and discuss. And so the expectation for the kids really is going to be much more, what did you guys talk about during the week when you read whatever material? What stood out to you? So that there can be more formulation of conversation around it. Because I think this book, personally, after reading it now 3 times in the last 4 or 5 months, I think is very relevant to some of the things that the Lord has been showing. And I can see very clearly in my heart why the Lord led me now, because it had been 20 plus years since I had read it. And so that's that. Along with that, I wanted to throw it out there to just have a tangible tool of communication outside of texting. When I worked for Koinonia, we had a thing that we required of our staff called RAP notes. And what RAP notes represent is report, assess, and plan. And basically that was a downloading of each day. This is what happened with the kid. They went to bed stable. So it was a report. So then the oncoming staff or myself when I came in the morning could read, could understand. And so my thought was I would like to, if you're open to it, and again, I'm open to feedback here, generate a Google Drive so that each kid has their own Google Drive. It will be shared between whatever teacher wants to participate and myself and the parents. And so when we deal with, just this was an observation class, or the positives too, because I think that's one of the things you always get, I think, teaching is it's always very easy at the end of the day to go, this is what didn't go well, and hey, by the way, this was a struggle with your kid. I would like that opportunity too, to just be like, this was a fantastic observation. Because there are, I find so often when I have a chance to reflect, going, man, I should have shared that. That Hannah had this amazing, revelation and really led the class in that way. But when you're in the midst of it, it just And so for me, I think this would be a really good tool because it will force me. It's something that's tangible that will force me to sit down and say, okay. So I'm not sure. Obviously, doing it on Monday when I get back from school, I'm not sure is reasonable. But I'm thinking by the Wednesday of that week, I would have a report posted, at least something. And then it would open up or offer as well to get feedback. And so if there's something particular that there's just of note or whatever, or mindfulness or prayerfulness or what, I mean, there's not like this is how we have to use it. It is just simply a vehicle for me. Because I see much more of the Lord impressing upon my heart that it's very difficult to teach when you have 1 day a week to impart. And I think the pressure can be, I've got 1 day, I've got to, well, that's not the mindset, to Nicole's point, because why? We're in fellowship and community. And so how then do we keep open forum or dialogue where it's, where there's a constant flow of information that can be utilized. And so that's my thinking towards that. But I certainly don't want anyone to feel burdened by it either. Because, if we're going to do it, I don't want anyone to feel like, oh man, I got to listen, to whatever, or is this going to be useful? And I certainly don't need another thing to do for the sake of doing it.
Right.
I'm happy to do it if it will bless you and it will help us continue to further the work of the Lord in their lives. The thing that the Lord has impressed upon my heart the last week, particularly with the kids, is that there's 2 things trying to be accomplished. I want to bless them and I want to press them.
I love it.
So
good.
And so being very mindful of, one of the reasons with Polis groups and challenges is I am prayerfully seeking the Lord on how to press each kid in a place that's uncomfortable. In a way that's uncomfortable, not for the sake of I'm going to get at you, but to help, round them out. My favorite, just my temperament. My favorite teachers were the ones that were hard on me, the ones that really pinned me down because school was easy for me. And so when I had teachers who really pressed my feet to the fire, I got a lot more benefit out of it. I know some kids are much more like, I can't wait to take the test.
She's like,
And so
when's it coming?
And so even though my preference is not to take tests and to have scores, I have to be mindful that there are some people that are created that way.
Yeah.
And that is a blessing for them. It's not my preference, it's not the but. So building that into the margins, right?
Yeah.
But then also kind of I think Hannah's a good example of this sometimes, is those areas where there's not a right answer.
Right.
There's no right or wrong.
What?
Well,
What do you
yes.
mean? Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know, she's really blossomed in that. Her insight is. I think she maybe surprises herself sometimes. But and so that's part of the goal as well with all of our studies. My hope is, and I'm really prayerfully trying to figure out a way to engage each kid individually, uniquely, how the Lord leads, to bless them and to press them in a way that obviously is spirit led. The last portion of it is poetry and essays, which will continue to be an ongoing thing. There is an expectation. I gave them. We didn't do any homework really over this outside of it was time to do a poem, and so Benji came up with the topic. Benji laid it out, and I said, okay, have your final done for Monday. And so,
As in 4 weeks from now.
yeah, right. And so Monday comes, and there'll be an expectation of, and so those who don't show up, who haven't presented it, there will be some form of, okay, well, you didn't do it, so I don't know what that'll look like.
Yeah.
But I'm already getting a lot of texts like, what was the thing again?
Uh-oh.
And my response has been, well, why don't you tell me what your understanding is, because I was very clear. So
That's great.
I'm not.
Petrologists are crazy, man.
That's
And I'm not,
great.
and I'm not helping. And to some of them are like, well, my polis. Yeah, ask your polis. But they weren't really clear. We'll see on Monday.
Yeah.
And so, I trust the way that the group has shifted. That come Monday, it'll
that
all be.
you can give a parent say, get out, please.
I trust that come Monday it'll be handled and done. But then after that, in our essay time, we just got through writing an essay on fathers.
Oh wow.
Felt led by the Lord to, and my hope is that the kids. I highly encourage the kids to share them, not just with their fathers, but with all of the fathers in the group, because I think there's a lot that we can, and to Emmanuel as well, can glean from it. The next essay will be on mothers, and so our essays over the next few essays are going to be about significant relationships in our life, and getting the kids to reflect. We going through, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to get all my information before your 30 minutes.
I have 2 minutes.
Okay. When we went through Great Expectations, we talked about benefactors, and I asked the question like, how are they benefactors to you? And I was so stunned at how difficult that assignment was to talk about how their parents, relationship. How do your parents supposed to, what they love us? Well, what does that mean? What does that look like? In the panic.
Oh.
In the panic of and we had some discussion around it because I think again, if I was at their age, I couldn't articulate it. I can probably barely articulate it now as an adult. Be like, what did they really benefit? But in that observation was I think we need to be much more mindful of the relationships that the Lord has given us. And we should be able, if I'm an adult, say, what blesses you about your dad? It should be more than a generic terminology. Well, he loves me and he gives me things and he helps me. Well, let's actually look at that a little bit more. And so the hope with that as well of the writing there and the expression is that they're being much more mindful and that prayerful and thoughtful about how they come to it. Because, the goal is not a perfect essay. I'm not going to grade them on a perfect essay.
Yeah.
I feel like that is maybe better served for parents to be like, okay, well, this is the body, the body, the
Right.
introduction to the
Main
body, and then
point,
the conclusion, and fleshing that out. I'm not personally gonna. Where I'm gonna focus much more on is we had things like, my dad is the best person in the world, and so reflecting question like, okay, well if that's the case, is that true, or is that hyperbole? What about your mom? So you like your dad more than I didn't do that. I didn't do that. But it's asking reflecting questions back to them, so that they're
Clarifying.
not just
Yeah.
writing for the sake of filling words.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very mindful of that because I'm an extremely flippant person growing up, because I was charismatic and I could use words to manipulate people. I did not value words, and so words to me were
Okay,
were
we're
a
gonna pay
were a
attention that
means.
way. Okay.
Yes, we're a means to an end, and so hopefully we are.
Sometimes a word, we think that a word salad will get us a check mark.
Yes.
Did you say a word salad?
Yes.
What that
That's
mean?
what he said.
We have a lot of students who
Yeah.
present word salads as, it's just a bunch of
Yes.
words.
It's just yeah.
It's just like shoot.
Oh, okay.
Salad.
Just fill the
You
gap.
look at the paragraph and then in
Oh,
the
yeah.
margins you go,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
does this
Okay.
mean? Because I don't
They said a lot of
understand
words. They
Yeah.
said a lot of words, and their words could have some meaning.
Yes.
Yeah, good, good.
Well, I think, and I mean, to me, this is the way that Christianity is, right? There's a lot of Christianese and flippancy and like, there's a lot of energy put into things, but not a lot of fruit that comes out of it. Lastly, the other topic that's coming forward is a Bible study survey with the younger ones. In continuing to be really prayerful about how to best lead that.
First, who are you targeting at?
And
Where's the audience?
so this would be, well, the audience would be the kids that don't participate with Emmanuel right now, who are
Okay.
hanging back. There's been an
Okay.
interest, I know with Caden, has for a while, and Niles. Those two have been the primary ones who have indicated.
Yes, so far.
And so
yeah.
obviously anyone who sits in the back room, they're welcome to do it.
Yeah.
But the thought that I had of moving forward is, I don't think there's any need to reinvent the wheel, or to do a teaching time, or any of that. And so I think how we're gonna manage it is Tim did a fantastic job on Bible survey. And so we're gonna start in Genesis, and so the homework, so to speak, will be, listen to what Tim shared on Genesis, the first section of Genesis, and then we'll have some conversation around it. And so the hope would be then, that it's not,
Turn 'em down.
it's in keeping with what the older ones have already heard. And we might explore, as the Lord leads, different teachings at different times. And I would do, again, my best to like communicate out, like, hey, this is the thought.
Yeah.
This is something that came up. And so, if we're in the middle of Genesis and there's a conversation about kingship or whatever, let's just say that topic comes up. Well, it might lend it
Can I
to,
inject something?
sure, absolutely.
But not to compete the time frame might overlap each other, but it'd be good to take a turn to let the older ones present with you to help discussion, even skip some session with them from
No doubt.
out.
That'd be awesome.
And give a pointer, this session, you as the assistant director for the discussion, whatever, so I think that will activate
Yeah.
them,
Mm-hmm.
in a way
Amen.
to enable us. I was saying to you that I think that's a good way to put it, but
They would have to come out of your class, though, so, as long
yeah,
as you're good with that,
absolutely, so, yeah.
I'm happy for that to be.
The class don't have to be present per se because the information already
Sure.
gave to them.
Yeah,
The information is just a matter for coordinating between the weekdays, let them engage in that session, if you will.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yes.
So, is that making sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, I see.
Can I
Yeah.
just say something super quick?
Mhm.
Just from a parent point of view, even just this is what they're doing, for my
Yes.
knowledge of that to, maybe discuss with them throughout the week.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
Yeah, so everything will be done, so I will have a sheet of questions or thoughts to process through before they get that assigned. So like with everything, there should be a syllabus that will come with it of kind of this is the next month or so. Secondarily to that, my hope is I'm going back through it and taking notes, is to compile something that might be beneficial to all of us. And so, Tim's teachings or whatever, to have like key points are at time-stamped stuff, so that moving forward, we have that as access, generally speaking, for.
That's beautiful,
Or from
I mean, I
brother.
know my family, we've not been through any of that,
Yeah.
any of us,
Yeah,
so.
they're really, they're really well done in a way that I think is,
The surveys are well done, unfortunately, some of the recordings.
The
aren't-
yeah, some of the recordings aren't great, and so that's why I
it's
think,
a little tricky to hear in some of the,
Yeah.
I don't know, as far as if the kids are gonna be listening.
yeah.
on their
Well,
own.
those ones, and I've heard some of those that are a little bit more difficult, I'll probably do my best to try to reiterate what was already shared. And they will be recorded as well. I'm hoping to record,
We found that through headphones too, it's a lot clearer
yeah,
versus on a speaker.
yeah,
On a speaker, it's hard, but through headphones, it's pretty clear.
so, yeah.
So,
So that's where that is at as far as, and I think we're still probably a month out from starting,
I don't even know if we were waiting.
the Bible study, and well, I think the big question is, there has to be a willingness to participate in it. It's just because we're doing it, doesn't mean the kids have to participate in it. And so, and I don't think anyone is really well served, particularly in that class, of like chasing after people to be a part of it. So, the question will be then, if they're opting out, and it will be the first session during when Emmanuel is doing his Bible
The
study.
parents here, let them to discuss everything on when they want to
Yeah.
be part of it.
Yeah, so in about a month. And so for those who aren't, because right now I'm sitting in the back with them and basically helping them not get too loud so that Bible study can go on. There's places for them to go and be. We'll just have to reiterate kind of the need that it is. I allow them to have a little bit of interaction as long as their voices are lower. I think without that, at times when I've gotten pulled out, it's gotten louder. And so we'll just have to reiterate to them, for those who choose not to participate, that's fine, but you probably need to participate in something that's individual. So it's, if you and your friend are wanting to hang out, that's all well and good, don't be together, don't be chit-chatting, because there's two pretty significant times going on.
That is difficult.
And then lastly, the Polish groups will be continuing, but they will be shifting here pretty soon. The goal is to obviously
Yeah.
have them get to know different people. The older kids are going to have a different kind of role. Some of the younger kids might have a chance to lead with some of the older kids' oversight.
That's cool.
And so, again, challenging some of the younger ones to kind of step into, challenging some of the older ones to be observant and mindful of the younger ones, to allow them to step into leadership and to not feel like they need to always guide. And so, and I'll let you guys know when that shifts. So I think that's it. There's going to be a lot going on, and I know Ben is taking a season to step back. And so the time frames of the classes are going to be a little bit, might be shortened, so we might not be going quite till 3. But I think it'll probably take a couple weeks to kind of flesh out what it looks like and have a, because I think in the margins there's going to be more time added at the front for Emmanuel's time, a buffer there, and then I would like to engage in a little bit more time to have Polis time where they're discussing, where it's not necessarily just
My time
teaching.
is Chinese lesson and Elijah adjustable.
I think it's more,
Yes,
brother, it's
yeah.
more the Bible study time
Okay.
of not feeling like you have to be done in an hour, but there's
Oh,
there's
I'm so sorry.
flexibility
Yeah,
built
yeah,
in there so
Yeah,
that
I'm gonna be mindful about
as the
that.
Lord leads, you know,
Yeah.
there's not a definitive, this is when it shuts down and we move on.
Oh sure.
So there's
yeah,
flexibility there as far
Okay.
as,
No.
So I don't need to install bells.
yes.
Bing,
Yeah.
bing.
Yeah, we can hold off on that.
Yeah. You know the library have meeting rooms.
Oh, yeah.
This next across the street, you know?
Well, and I haven't talked to Cheryl, but our house is just down the street. We have
Oh yeah,
a
yeah.
big room at the
Yeah, I
bottom.
offered
Yeah.
it.
We can set the table in there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, our back room can be totally closed off.
Oh
so.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, however we want to,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm good with
Yeah.
with whatever. I do know the other complication that is inevitably coming up will be weather
No.
and how that affects our travel.
Transportation.
Because there have been times with the weather that Mondays are just like, nah, we can get here.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
That's a guarantee. I mean, I can drive in the snow. It's just not.
Yeah.
It's not the best. It's not always the best option.
Yeah.
You know, and we can do Zoom or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever else.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well, that's the beauty of what we do, it doesn't have to be,
Yeah.
you know, if things don't happen every Monday, it's okay, but. Yeah, we're gonna have to kind of wrap up though, cause I think, y'all's cabinet is still not cleaned, I don't think, and then, it'll be my luck, somebody will check in early, so, and then
Sure.
Tim has a meeting at 2,
Okay.
so I certainly don't wanna cut anybody off, but, thank you so much, Justin, for
Yes.
updating all your background efforts and work and heart in all that.
Absolutely.
Yes,
It's been
thank
such a
you.
blessing from you and from Ben, and addition of Andy participating and all those that are engaged and,
It's a deer. It's okay.
it's a beautiful thing to be brought to tears in love and adoration of what you do for
Amen.
someone else,
Thank you,
and
Lord.
especially someone else's child. I mean, I know we talked about it a lot today, but it really is a beautiful thing to come together and just grow as a family and grow as in one heart
Yeah.
for the Lord.
Yeah. You guys as a meat, obviously the abilities is on meat. So, I mean, you gotta hold the teach. Ma is one way street. So I like what you gotta do. Yeah. It's good balance. Thank you for that. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I certainly want to close in prayer if Andy wouldn't mind closing us. And,
The quiet
conversations
partner
from-
suddenly break the silence.
Pray for us, girl.
Well, Lord, we just thank you so much for encouraging us and helping us to look back and see the growth and the time spent well over the last year. We just pray for more, Lord, and an abundance of growth in these young people and in us too, as parents and brothers and sisters in Christ. Just pray that you would outpour on us and make way for more in this community, Lord. We thank you so much for the people who have worked so hard to put everything together and given of themselves, and I pray that you'd help us, the ones who are wanting, desiring to be a part of things, to have the capacity to pour in, and I pray that it would just be, it would come naturally, Lord, from our hearts. We thank you so much, Lord. Thank you for this time. We bless our week as we head on. In your name, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.